This is why top tier players should just not be allowed to play in World of Tanks, and this is why this player right here, AVS 11, is going to just stomp in this game in the AMX M454, which is a French tier 10 heavy that just, to be all intents and purposes, I would not class as one of the strongest heavies in the game, but regardless of the classification of this tank, when put in the right hands of AVS, he can just stomp, and by stomp I mean just absolutely annihilate everyone on the opposite team. We're going to cover everything you need to know about this tank in terms of the armor model, how good it can be in the game itself, and also what the strengths of playing something like this ogre, this French giant, can really do within the game. So what you're seeing here is, of course, 2 tiers above, playing against the T26E5, which of course is not very fair, and often I'm surprised he hasn't taken any hits from the area over in K like 4 here, which is kind of lucky, but then again, he is playing very aggressively, and I would expect him to kind of just push forward and continue up into the main area, which is, of course, in the middle of the map, against the Leopard PTA and the LT432, who, to all intents and purposes, aren't really a threat here to AVS. And yeah, if I was that Leopard PTA, I would be trying to find a way to get myself out of that scenario where you're not having to come up against this boy and where you don't have to face this French heavy, because to be fair, the Leopard is, you know, able to actually pen, but for most of the time he's going to struggle with the frontal armor of this tank when he decides to get face tugged, and you're about to see the Leopard here just feeling what the true might of the French is going to be able to do. And it's funny to actually see the French actually moving forward for once within World of Tanks, and we can actually see him take it down the Leopard PTA, which is a result that I was expecting for AVS to take down. Unfortunately, he did lose like, what, 66% of his hit points, or nearly even 3/4 of his health there, which was probably not the nicest of results for him. But however, he has now got the best position in the game, which is of course being on top of the hill, and on top of the hill on mines is really where this game becomes it's so hard for the opponents to really do too much, because they just don't have the ability to shoot back at you, and even if they do, they're usually out in the middle of the open and you can get holed down like you're seeing here. And the problem is if something like this TNH does decide he's going to aim at you, it really ends up with them getting taken out, because there's someone else on your team is probably looking at them from C5 or 6 or somewhere else from a different kind of angle. Now, having done 5,383 damage, he could end the game right now, and that wouldn't be the worst result ever. However, he's not going to do that. He's going to take out the artillery, which, of course, as usual on this channel, we love seeing. And now we're about to see what happens when he goes a little bit harder on this side. Now, the TNH that he's been pumping for the beginning of this game has come back out, and he's put another round into him. You saw that the double-barreled tank right there did actually come out, and so he's made sure that he put one round into him, the ST2, who he's now going to try and get another shot onto, and if he can do that, it's going to be a great result for him, because once the ST2's out the game, or alternatively taking out the TNH, he can then progress with turning around and deciding that he needs to help out the team on the other side, because to all intents and purposes, this Emil 2 and the Lerva could be coming up behind him, so he does have to be very careful. Now, with the Waffle Panzer IV just getting taken out by the ST2 there, he needs to make sure that he doesn't suffer the same fate, and he tries to put one round into the ST2. Unfortunately, he goes undetected, so we don't know whether or not that he's actually dealt the damage to him. Now, in this brief moment of respite, the key weak points of the MX are, of course, this kind of bit of the armor right here, this kind of sloped panel, which can be very annoying to actually come up against sometimes, because when they're moving at speed, the AMX can be really difficult to pen. And albeit, you know, when you're aiming properly, you can probably pen it every single time, especially if you're loading the premium ammo, but it doesn't really matter that much. Now then, having done the damage that he has, he now needs to decide as to what the best manoeuvre is to do next. Now, he has to be careful that there are going to be TDs sat in the back, but he does want to help out his team with this Emil 2, who's kind of locking down the other side of the flank, but it doesn't matter, he shuts him down anyway. So, with 3 TDs on the enemy team left alive, an ST2 and with the T124, the T30 and the T28, 2 of those tanks can one-shot him. And of course the ST2, if he manages to get the side and powers up that big derpy gun, then he will be able to take him out as well. Now, knowing full well that the ST2 could be somewhere lurking in the background like he's been all game, he needs to make sure that he's not being silly with the way in which he's poking. And so you see him kind of using the wreck of the Waffen Panzer IV there, but doesn't really matter at this point. The ST2 has of course moved forward and been a little bit more aggressive. The T124 on the enemy team is of course on a decent chunk of hit points, so he needs to make sure that he's focusing down the tanks that are on low hit points, or alternatively just stomping what's left of the T124. Now, because he took out the artillery on the enemy team, which was a great play to be fair, at this point he's now not really worried about what's going to be coming from above and into him from that direction. But equally he needs to be sure that the ST2 that was spotted earlier is not going to be snaking his way around, and if he can take him out of the game, then that will be perfect for kind of moving forward within this game. But having done 8,500 damage now, it really is kind of how good can this replay be? Because even if he lost this game right here, right now, then you know, you could pretty much surmise that this would be one of the top replays of the French heavy regardless. But if he can get the win, then it really would be. Now then, having seen what this French heavy can do, and because of the just bulkiness of this tank, he now needs to be very, very careful with where he's exposing himself, because of the high profile nature of the actual tank, and I'm not talking about its extravagant nature, I'm talking about just literally being a purely high tank within the game. It's very, very tall, and so often you'll get caught out in the side by a position that you weren't expecting whatsoever. Now then, with the ST2 moving forward, and I'm sure that AVS is very well aware that he needs to make sure that he does place this round into him. Now he bounces one from the ST2, which enables him now to actually push forward, because now that he knows that he's not going to be able to be one-shot, he can take out the T28 prototype, and now he has to be a little bit careful with regards to the ST2 before he gets taken out, because if the ST2 is able to pen both shots in a row, and he's probably firing heat like we can see down here in the bottom left, typical player, and then we really could end the game very prematurely, and definitely unfortunately for AVS. Now the ST2 decides to fire, and now it's time to just go. If he can actually pump out this last remaining shot on the ST2, then that will be basically curtains for him. And now he is a little bit careful with going forward. Now the ST2 then bounces the shot, and then it's game over for him, and luckily he manages to take him out. So 7 kills done within this game, which is fantastic for any tank in the game, regardless of the tier, regardless of the game. But having done 9,600 damage and combining that with the amount of kills, and also the fact that he's been able to secure this top position on mines for so long against multiple opponents all at once, then yeah, it really does showcase how good AVS here is within World of Tanks. Now then, not the tank you want to see sneaking up on you. It is of course the T124, and this is an absolute disgusting moment. Can he just get close enough? Oh, the E4, he low rolls superbly to mean that he can take him out in one singular remaining shot. Now, this is not a scenario that you like. There's a T30 that is on full health remaining on the enemy team, and albeit that AVS has had an outstanding round of World of Tanks, picking up 10,470 damage within this result, a T30 can basically HE you to death, and with only 16 hit points left, yeah, that doesn't seem that impossible. And so yeah, he needs to be kind of mindful with what he's going to do from this position. You can see him just trying to spot the T30 using the bushes and just trying to remain undetected, but considering this is a very meaty, big, bulbous French heavy tank with pretty bad camo, it's not going to be able to really outspot that easily. And even if he does, you know, you're going to get spotted as soon as you fire, and so he needs to make sure that he's not being too silly. Now, having realised this, he's got to just wait carefully, and you can see here he places a lovely round, 583 damage into the T30, which is perfect, exactly what you want. Now, what will he do from this? Will he re-poke the same position? Will the T30 just be pre-aiming with HE? We don't know yet, and that's exactly why you see AVS now moving, or at least attempting to move, before he decides to completely turn around and go back to the same position. You'll see him probably actually coming down into this spot to maybe get a different location, but doesn't seem to do that. And I wonder if the T30 will make his way up and try and get into the middle, and AVS will be able to take him out from here. But we don't know as of yet, and of course we have to be very, very kind of careful with what we're doing with the remaining point in this game. Now, 11,000 damage. This is something that most heavies will not do, let alone a French heavy, because we all know that the French heavies, yes, they can have good games, yes, they have good alpha, but ultimately, in World of Tanks, the French heavies are pretty weak in most regards. I mean, yes, you can have the good game, but are they a pinnacle tier heavy in the game? No, not at all. And so, yeah, you do have to be kind of very careful with as to how you play them, because, yeah, you can be aggressive. Yes, you can use the armor as you might want to, but you might not always want to do that in all scenarios. But now, with the fact that the T30 is playing a little bit passively, there's not much going on in terms of the way in which the T30 is playing, I think AVS decides that it's going to have to be a case of he needs to go, because with 3.5 minutes on the clock, and with very little time for him to be able to make too many different plays, and with only 2 premium rounds left in the game, he definitely needs to decide to do something quickly. Now, you see him go for the blind fire on the T30, no damage has been done, and the T30 may have relocated into G4, which of course would get a good shot onto him if he was to be sat up here, etc. And also the T30 could alternatively still be in C4, or he could have relocated back to B2, or he just could have been anywhere, to be honest with you, on that side of the map. So you don't want to be too ballsy, you don't want to be too aggressive, you don't want to put yourself in too much of a risky position that could end up like teetering you over the edge into the loss, and of course that's not what we want to see from this result. Now, 2 minutes and 40 seconds left. That's not particularly the nicest amount of time to make some bold plays, and you do have to kind of ensure that what you're doing is not too risky. Now, you see him kind of turning around, looking around, and of course he knows that the T30 could be coming from all directions, and I guess that that's what we're fearful of. Now, knowing that the time is short, and with the game kind of moving back, he's gone back into his traditional position over here, and he does actually spot the T30, although it does take him just a second to realise, and he places 1 round into the T30's upper turret, which means that he's now put the T30 on a 1-shot, which is perfect for him. And now what is he going to do? Is he going to be the aggressor? Is he going to take a more aggressive position, or is he going to be a little bit more passive? And you can see what he's done is he's completely relocated, and he's going to move over to here. There is 1 premium round left, 1 chance really within this game to make it count and to win the game himself. The T30, is he moving up? Oh, he is, and he's caught him completely by surprise, and that is the win for AVS here. AVS 11 performing unbelievably in this French heavy. Now, with an insane replay like that under AVS's belt, I really hope that he does continue his work with these French heavies, and maybe we'll see a 3rd mark appearing on this tank in not too long. And hopefully you guys, as the watchers, enjoyed this replay. Of course, let me know in the comment section down below what you thought of this replay itself. And of course, if you want to check out any more videos, there will be 2 really great replays I can promise you at tier 10 on screen right now. So check those out, and I hope that I'll see you in one of those. Goodbye.